Lately I've received so many letters and messages. I'm sorry if I'm slow in responding. I'll definitely get back to you. In particular, Asim in Pakistan, you've sent me urgent messages and I'm with you. I will phone you in Pakistan shortly. It's just been one of those 2-week periods where time is short. Anyhow, our last video was on the S20 and the response and questions were strong about this rifle, which I still think is a near perfect quote-unquote modern rifle. Even if you don't like polymer stocks, it's hard to argue with the accuracy and performance of the S20. But then people correctly brought up other rifles from the past, not too distant past, that were similar. And I happen to have a couple of these T3 Sporters. So I thought, well, I'll pull one out. This is actually the last one I have. Sometimes when I think a rifle is excellent and the market doesn't really acknowledge that, I'll buy, 2 or 3 if I can, or more. Sometimes distributors sell out rifles at low prices. Anyway, this is a T3 Sporter. You've probably seen the Tikka Arctic, and I'm at a disadvantage because I'm never sure what country you're watching my videos from. But this is the Sporter, which is really what you would call a varmint version in North America. I'm not sure what it would be called in Russia or in Europe or in Australia. Greetings to all of you in Australia, by the way. Fantastic letters from Australia, just a great country. Anyway, that's a kind of a footnote, but yeah. So T3 Sporter, laminated stock. As the fellows from Finland and Sweden write me, we use a plywood stock. We don't like to say plywood over here, but that's what it is. It's a plywood stock, laminated. It's got some nice colors. This is actually I guess you would call it an ergonomically, very wonderful rifle to shoot. This is in .260 Remington. They came out in different calibers. I had them in .308. I think I had a .708. Very slick T3 action. We all know that T3 action. Very, very slick. Excellent. I don't know how one of these would not shoot. You can see the barrel is completely free-floated. And you've got a deep magazine. Well, some people argue too deep, but the release is way in there. In fact, I can't even release this one. Or maybe I released it before. Let me see. Oh yeah, I released it before filming. So you can see I've got a lot of shots. Sometimes I try to do things before filming and I forget what I do. This is right out of the box, factory box. I bought them, stored them for years, and then took them out. You get an extra magazine and a couple of extra things in the box. Anyhow, that's the T3 Sporter, which is really the main story of this particular video. If you come across these, they're unsung heroes, amazingly accurate, relatively inexpensive compared to the S20, and a laminate stock are maybe somewhat heavier than the polymer stock of the S20, but I don't think when you're buying a rifle like this you're thinking about weight, or else you'd be buying something else. I like that T3 Sporter a lot, and I notice the prices keep going up because people identify them with that T3 Arctic. And in case you don't know the T3 Arctic, I'm not sure that it's stamped T3 Arctic here. I've handled a couple. I think I've shot some. They're in .308. They have the same orange laminate stock. And these T3 Arctics, which look different from this rifle. The Arctic has wonderful aperture sights. And actually, I don't want to take away from the T3 Arctic. It's a fine rifle. it's probably still available. You could buy it. It was Tikka's like presentation or entry into the, let's call it lottery or competition for a new rifle to guard like Canada's north. I mean, theoretically there are threats that could occur over the poles or Arctic areas, so we have people running around up there on skidoos and whatnot, and they used to carry Enfields, and there's an interesting footnote to that story. I get correspondence from all over, as you can imagine. So one fellow I knew, I did ask him, what do you like better, the T3 Arctic or your old Enfield? And he said, well, we have the Arctic on the sled, but we still like the Enfield better. Now, I don't know, maybe that's a function of time. Maybe soon they'll like the Arctic better, I don't know. Anyway, the Arctic looks a lot like this. Just Google it and you can see them. But better than the Arctic, to me, is the Sporter. It's very comfortable. It feels, to me, as good or better than the S20. All kinds of calibers. Maybe getting hard to come by, maybe getting more expensive, but definitely still inexpensive compared to the Arctic. Anyway, this is all under the umbrella of rifles that are slightly heavier than Sporter rifles, because Kimber and lots of companies are constantly trying to make lighter rifles. Lightness is not the objective with the T3 Sporter or the S20. So it's more of a balance of purpose and design. And my favorite of them all is this rifle. This has a cool story behind it. So this is the Tikka. I have to watch because they keep, this is the 5.58 and this is in 308. Now you can see that it's got kind of the heavy Sporter stock of the T3, which you can still see here, but not really. I mean, it's not quite that sort of almost thumbhole design. This is more of what I guess they would call an old school design. Magazine's easily accessible here. It's still got some metal in the magazine. In fact, this whole series of rifles before the T3, I actually do believe was the best version of the Tikka. If you find the earlier versions too primitive and blocky, well, this was between the blocky old and the T3. Bolt release was stuck on that, so you saw the bolt tip out. Anyway, this rifle, for the connoisseurs out there, you've probably noticed that the barrel has iron sights and is definitely floating in that barrel channel. This is all me. I got a hold of a barreled action in 308. The rifle I purchased was not in 308. This was actually what I bought. It's in 243. So I had to take the trigger out, and the barrel fits the barrel channel of the rifle I just showed you. It has a proper rail on it. Bolt fits. I'm going to swap it over just so you can see. And either one of these, the 308 or the 243, are excellent. I would have to say the 243 is slightly more accurate, so you can see what I'm up to. There are all kinds of little tricks you can do. So that's the action, but I have to put the trigger from this model into the 243. Anyway, a lot of the stuff I say triggers thoughts in the viewers, which is what I want to accomplish, and then you kind of fill in the gaps. So that's what happened here. I could turn this into a 243 or a 308, and I guess if I was lucky I could turn it into something else, but not really by design, just by coincidence and knowing how to do it. Anyhow, getting back to the main point, this is a fantastic rifle if you can find it. The T3 Sporter is a wonderful rifle. Does everything you could want, and most of the time we don't need these 5-pound rifles. I have them too, or 6-pound, let's say, with a scope, but these are very accurate, very stable. Of course, a longer barrel, less vibration, harmonics are more predictable, And that's why they make them in Europe. And like I said at the beginning, over here we call them varmint versions or tactical versions, you know, whatever the market wants to hear. But this heavier barrel, heavier stock idea has been around a long time. So yeah, if you can find a T3, I invite you to buy one in the Sporter version. I think it's the best of the T3s. They're all good, but that's what I liked. And now, of course, there's the T3 whatever X, and I just looked at another prototype, and I think Tikka's going to hit a home run again. Other than that, I have this on the table, this funny thing. Got it as a gift. So I thought, oh, somebody bought me something for a scope. You know, I'm usually, when people ask me what would you like as a gift, I usually ask for ammunition. First of all, I don't have to store it or dust it. It's gone not long after receiving. So I thought, oh, they bought me a scope lens, but I couldn't figure out, you know, what kind of scope lens. So I opened it up and it's not a scope lens at all. It's shot glasses anyway. I guess I can use those too. Other than that, if you can get a hold of one of these, what is this? This is a Schultz & Larsen model 54J. The reason I bring this up is quite a few letters from people who want to know how to make a very shallow bolt action rifle. This is the answer. There are several answers, of course. This gets rid of a magazine. It's only a single shot. This is the fantastic single shot Schultz & Larsen Action, which locks at the rear. It's one of my favorites. The history of this is worth researching, and you can read the history probably better than I can tell it. But have a look at the history of this Schultz & Larsen original Action. They've changed them now. I still like these the best. Anyway, you know, once in a while I get it in my head I've got to get a custom rifle, and I think I'm going to get something built on this, just because the single shot has sort of a mystique to it, as you know, and I like it. Anyway, I can go on and on and on, which is maybe a good thing or maybe a bad thing. But in closing, I wanted to thank you for your letters about my health, which is, you know, I'm fine. I'm completely healthy. I must sometimes cause concern, in particular, the tremor in my hands, which I actually made a couple of videos about. This is from childhood. I don't have Parkinson's. I had all those tests. Some of you feel I'm going to drop dead. I mean, maybe I will drop dead, in which case it's fine, but not from Parkinson's. And this thing is called essential tremor. It comes and goes. It does not impair my shooting. It is not based on anything predictable. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people with similar handicaps, and what happens is you just get used to yourself in a way, because we are kind of like hermit crabs living in these shells, these bodies, with all their imperfections. And, you know, I'm no exception. But anyhow, no, I have nothing wrong, and if it comforts anybody out there, my expiry date is probably a long ways in the future, I hope, I think. And the essential tremor is unsolvable because nobody knows what causes it, so nobody knows how to cure it. So I take what I can. You know, they come up with different prescriptions. Some of the prescriptions are hilarious because they make you very sleepy, and I used them on a couple of videos, and then people were writing me and saying, you're totally drunk, which I wasn't, but I guess the medication must have done something. Anyway, thanks for your concern. I'll be fine. I keep making these videos, keep writing, and let's keep this channel going. Please help me any way you can. This is, I think, beneficial around the world for collectors and gun people. I noticed some people are joining Patreon. That's a huge difference. And really, that's probably all I have to say. But mostly, thank you for being there. And stay healthy. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care.